Stat of the day brought to you by Panini America, the official trading cards of the Dan Patrick Show. Christopher Mad Dog Russo, host of Mad Dog Unleashed on Sirius XM Channel 82, and one of the co-hosts of ESPN's First Take. Chris, good to talk to you again. Let me start with this. Why is it when we compare generations, we do it with basketball freely, but we don't do it with football, and we don't do it with baseball? Like, But why do we pick and choose and say Steph Curry wouldn't be anything back in the 80s and this guy couldn't play and this guy could play? We don't do that with baseball, and we don't do that. Nobody says Bart Starr, he couldn't play today, or, Bob Greasy couldn't play today.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. Danny, good to be on as usual. I think you do a little bit with the quarterbacks because you do rank them, but nobody ranks Unitas lower than the others because he played 100 years ago. So you're right. You do it with the NBA. You don't do it with baseball because it's not a size thing and it's not physicality. And, you still got to hit it. It's, hand-eye coordination. You got to hit the pitch. Koufax threw as fast as 100 miles an hour, just like the guys are throwing today. So you're right. I think there's a little. I think there's a little baseball because of the field conditions. Prior to 1947 with no African Americans. So I think people do a little of that. But overall, the sport that does get looked at from an era to era basis is definitely the NBA. I think this Celtic City thing, which I'm sure you've kept an eye on, I think that contributes to it a little bit because it's coming out in March. The NBA season's winding down, so you're wrapped up in the Celtics. They're great again. So you're watching those 9 episodes. So you think of Bird, you think of Parrish, you think of Russell, and I think that contributes to it this period right now, this time of the year. But I don't know. I don't have the answer for you. I mean, maybe because the players are so identifiable, you see them, they feel like they're part of your family. The football players got the helmet on. So you don't have the same feel there. You don't quite understand. And it's harder to analyze the football player. Now, how do we know who the best offensive tackle is of all time? You got to look at film. Basketball, it's right in front of you. You can analyze it. Maybe that's got something to do with it. But you're right. The NBA does do the era stuff more than the other sports, 100%.
Why is it we acknowledge Babe Ruth stats, that they're believable, where we don't acknowledge Wilt Chamberlain stats? Because we'll go, nobody saw the 100-point game, and he averaged 50, in a season. It almost, he had 55 rebounds in a game. We don't acknowledge the almost mythological-like figure that Wilt was, but we do that with Babe Ruth.
Yeah, maybe because there weren't a lot of great centers. He was outside of Russell, he was a freak. He was so good, so athletic. It sounds so crazy to average 50 points a game. Baseball, there is a feel in baseball where you can identify a little bit more with the Garrick or the Ruth era than you can with the basketball. When you watch the highlights of Chamberlain, you see the players he's playing against. It looks like he dwarfs them physicality-wise. You don't sense that necessarily with Ruth. It's not like he's 6'8" and everybody else is 5'8". I mean, he's essentially the same, and he's heavy. He doesn't look like a great athlete. So I think from an athletic perspective, it looks a little bit more legitimate. And Ruth, Ruth is just, he out-homered leagues. Ruth. And plus the ballpark was so much bigger. It was 515 feet to straightaway center field in Detroit. 515 feet. That's Polo Grounds. It was miles out the center field. It's not the same with the Chamberlain thing. But you're right. Chamberlain, I think, and maybe because he didn't win as much either. Maybe that had something to do with it. The fact that Chamberlain only won the 2 titles and, Ruth was in a million World Series. So maybe that's got a little something to do with it. We kind of look at Chamberlain's records as a little overrated because he wasn't able to do that in the postseason. And he always lost. So maybe you think the regular season's a little mythical. Maybe that's got something to do with it. But you're right. Wilt averaged 50 points a game in that 61-62 season. And that is an incredible. And then they lost to the Celtics in Game 7. So what did it actually mean? Ruth hit home runs in the World Series. Maybe that's got something to do with it. But that's a very interesting question. I don't think there's a direct answer.
Yeah, but Oscar averaged a triple-double that same year. I think that Wilt averaged 50.
I think he did.
Okay, so that's not freakish, right? People look at that and go, oh my gosh, look at what he did. Like, we acknowledge the Big O averaged a triple-double. And then it didn't become a big deal until nobody had done it until Russell Westbrook. And because we like nice, neat packaged things where it's a triple-double. And then, well, you got it. And I think they were the 6th seed. And Westbrook won an MVP based off getting triple-doubles.
Yeah, he had a 40. They only won 44, 45 games. Yeah, I mean, maybe because, nobody's averaged 50 cents. Maybe that's got a little something to do with it. Wilt's numbers are so astronomical that's got something to do with it. But, Wilt had his warts, too. I mean, there's many a game in a big spot. You all know about taking himself out of Game 7 in Russell's last year, which bothered Russell to no end. Looking around to see if Willis Reed was going to play in Game 7 at Madison Square Garden. Why is he worrying about Willis Reed, for crying out loud? And then as Havlicek once told me this, that the year they lost to lost to the Celtics when they were the defending champs in Russell's second year as the head coach, his first championship, he didn't take a shot in the fourth quarter because he had 5 fouls and he didn't want to foul out. Remember,
never fouled out
in a game. What is he worrying about? Put the pressure on the official. So Wilt's got he's got some peccadillos. There's no question about it. But you're right. We don't look at Oscar as freakish, and we do look at Wilt as freakish. And what Oscar did, 31, 11, and 11, maybe it's because people that averaged 30 points and people that averaged 10 rebounds and people that averaged 11 assists. And so we didn't think it was that big a deal.
Yeah.
And the fact he did it all in the same year, you kind of forgot about it. And it got a little underrated. Interesting questions, Danny.
He's Christopher Mad Dog Russo. You'll listen to him on Mad Dog Unleashed on Sirius XM 82. And also you can see him on First Take. What do you think the feeling or morale is like at the home office with the commissioner today with what happened with Morant again last night?
Yeah, I mean, Morant just doesn't get it. I mean, he's going to have to suspend him. And I think Silva is at times very, very soft. And I think in this particular situation, we'll see if he gave him a warning and then basically he did it the next day, for crying out loud. Morant doesn't get it. He's always getting himself in hot water. We all know this is not the first time. It'll be interesting to see what Silva does. Would he suspend him for some? I mean, maybe he suspends him for the last 6-7 games of the regular season. Does he do that and leave him alone for the playoffs? It's probably what he'd do, right? I don't think he'll suspend him for a playoff series. He'll probably suspend him for the rest of the regular season. It's only 5 games. Don't you think that's what he'd do, Danny?
I think because commissioners don't like when you embarrass them publicly. Tom Brady lied to the commissioner, therefore it felt like he came down harder on Brady because he lied. This is a case where Ja just did this. He just got verbally spanked by the commissioner, and then you do it again the next night, and you do it right in his face. I think he's basically calling the NBA's bluff to say, all right,
I think you're right.
Let me see what you're going to do.
And if Silva doesn't do anything, he's going to get pounded. So.
Yeah.
He's going to have to do something. I think the question is what the discipline will be. I don't think he'll punish him in the postseason because I don't think he wants to tarnish Memphis's chance to be in the postseason. They will be in anyway. It's a question of playing or what have you. I guess it is. Do you take 6 games away from him? Is that what you do at the end of the year?
Yeah.
Is it a 1-game thing? Or do you want to give him the next 10 days off? What do you want to do?
Yeah, but I want to punish him in a sense that he's punishing his teammates. Because if you just punish him, he'll be like, all right, whatever, I lost some money. You're going to suspend me for 25 games to start the season. This is now going into the postseason. So now this affects your city, your coaching staff. You just got your head coach fired, and you're jockeying for position. This, maybe, if it affects his teammates, maybe then it resonates with him in a different way.
Well, theoretically, it would affect his teammates because they're trying to stay out of the play-in, and if they do suspend him, they'll probably be in the play-in. Is that enough of a does that suit you from a punishment standpoint, or play-in and being the 6th seed is not a big deal? That's an interesting question. I don't know. I know the players' teams seem to care about not having to play in that play-in. Would that be enough in Silva's mind as a team punishment that because he loses the next 6 games, they're stuck playing Minnesota to see if they get into the main body of the postseason? I don't know. Will he look at it that way? You tell me.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to resonate with Morant, but if you're the commissioner, you may be at the end of your rope and just say,
oh, you got to do something.
yeah,
You got to do something.
yeah, I think so.
He's not going to suspend him for the whole playoff.
No, no. Are the Dodgers great for baseball?
Yeah, they probably are. They're great right now. Middle of August, when they've got a 20-game lead and they're on their way to, they're on the way to 130 and 32. Maybe then we'll get a little bored with it because there won't be any suspense in the divisional race. There won't be any suspense as far as the 1 seed is concerned.
You don't think the Padres and the Giants can hold on here and make this competitive in the West?
Yeah, maybe. And that division's pretty good. San Diego, Arizona's good. Padre, the Giants. But, even the Padres are 7-0, and they're still behind. Think about it that way. The Dodgers will, they're calmed down a little bit. They have an injury. They're going to get bored. I don't think the Dodgers will care one way or the other about winning 116 games. No, they might get it just because they're that good, and it just happens to be. But if you think Dave Roberts, you know better than anybody, Danny, Dave Roberts with 5 games to go, needing 2 wins, he's not going to sit there and let Blake Snell pitch 8 innings so he breaks the regular season record for wins. They are not going to care about that under any circumstances. And Seattle didn't win a World Series anyway. They lost to the Yankees the year they won 116. So, and the Indians lost too. When they had won 111, they lost. So I don't think the Dodgers are going to be that wrapped up in trying to break any regular season record, but they might be so dominant. And their backup team is great. So as a result of that, their reserves are that great. They might win 120 just for winning 120. Is it good or bad? It's probably good, right? Everybody likes the villain. We'll keep an eye on them because the Dodgers have a lot of pressure on them if they go through that regular season and win 120 games, and then they lose in the first round of the playoffs. And that's going to be they have to win the World Series.
Yes.
And so as a result, there'd be a little bit of that we will keep an eye on whether they can sort of make good on a regular season. We'll have to wait and see on that.
The torpedo bats, are the torpedo bats performance enhancing?
Not to me, no. How come Jose Trevino can't hit? He hits 200. He used the torpedo bat last year. Judge doesn't use the torpedo bat, and he's got 1 million home runs already. I don't think it's that big a deal. The baseball, I'm going to trust them when they say it's in the rules. I know it's the rage of the sport the first week of the season. I think the biggest thing in the sport right now are the Braves. There's no team that's ever made. Did you know there's no team that's ever made the playoffs starting 0-7?
Yeah.
Which I did not know. And throwing the idea they have Profar out. He's not going to be able to play. They gave him $44 million based on last year. Maybe last year was a mirage because maybe he was juicing all year, and that's why he had a great season for the Padres. So they get no recourse out of that. They don't have him for 85 games. Who knows with Acuna, and they're already 0-7 in a good division. I think that is interesting. That, to me, is more interesting than the torpedo bats with the Dodgers, is Atlanta went to the West Coast, didn't win a game. They let Neris pitch in the second game of the year. He blew a save, and they DFA'd him 2 days later for crying out loud. So that, to me, is interesting, is what Atlanta has done in the sport. And then, of course, you got a good college basketball weekend this weekend, too. So it's a good weekend. And then next week, the Masters.
Have you made any money during March Madness?
No, I've gotten killed. The 2 that were terrible, Danny.
St.
I
John's?
had Arkansas. You saw it, right?
Yeah.
I had Arkansas on the money line. They blew a 13-point lead. And then Michigan State, and the old Miss kid threw the ball in the basket. It rimmed in the last -3.5 at 76-7. Yeah, I've struggled. I'm going to pass this weekend. I think Duke and Florida, though, will be there Monday night. I think Duke and Florida will be there. I think that'll be a great game.
I would take the 5.5 with Houston.
You would?
And I'd take Auburn straight up.
Oh, you would?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, let's do the second one first. How come?
Houston's just going to ugly it up. And I don't think that you're going to see Cooper Flagg go off. That's a veteran team, veteran coach, and they're going to keep it low, feels like, and they're going to be physical. It'll be an ugly game. Aesthetically not pleasing.
And lose 63-60 and you win your bet.
Yeah.
All right, how about the Auburn game?
I just think we kind of move past Auburn being good. As long as Broom is healthy to play, you got a really good coach. I haven't been impressed with Florida. I love Clayton. He's awesome.
He's great.
He's so much fun. But I watched a couple of games because everybody said, oh, my gosh, Seth Greenberg said it's like Noah's Ark. They got 2 of everything. And I went, okay. I think we moved on from Auburn quickly because they lost, 3 or 4 at the end of the season. That's still a really good team, tough team. And once again, veterans there. The only team that's really had freshmen who have had an impact is Duke. And that's rare in March Madness.
100%.
It's
you don't buy the
veterans.
idea. You don't buy the idea that Florida's tough physically and mentally because they came back and won 2 games against UConn and Texas Tech.
Yeah, but they could have lost those games, Chris. I mean, we could look at it that way too. They could have easily lost those games.
Oh, absolutely. They were down 10 with 3 minutes to go against Texas Tech. They think you can go either way with that. You could say they learned something and, nothing is going to faze them if they fall behind, or you can say that's a sign that they're a little overrated.
Now, don't bet on my information, Chris. I don't.
No, don't bet on mine either.
Oh, no, I know that.
I do think, Florida won easy at Auburn in a regular season late. I think Florida Duke. I think any combination is pretty good because these are all 1 seeds. I think Florida Duke on Monday night would be a great game.
It would be
if that's what we get.
I don't think people will enjoy if it's Houston and Auburn.
You're probably right.
Yeah, they probably.
I probably should. That game will have problems. Houston and Auburn be a tough watch. Southern part of the country, ugly. But Florida Duke be a great game. They need Duke. They need Duke in the final. Duke brings eyeballs. They need Duke in the final.
What's it like when you have a big loss? Do you have to tell your wife how much money you lost?
No, I don't. I don't.
Does she ask?
She knows because she hears me scream about it. But no, and you win some too. It's not like I lose all the time. I tell you what's really bothered me. I had the Nuggets over 51.5. They've lost the Wizards twice, the Bulls. They lost to Minnesota where they blew the game with Westbrook. And then they don't play anybody against San Antonio when they're playing for something? I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, come on. I mean, I understand the players today make a big deal about, well, we're much better and physically and all that nonsense. Here's what I want the player to do. Bird played 82 games every year. 82 freaking games. They were 65 and 7-15, and he's playing in game 83 against 80 against the Nets. Murray's played 65 games. He's taken 17 games off. How about playing a full schedule? And why don't you go commercial instead of playing charter and play 3 games in 3 different cities on commercial aircraft and sitting in the back of the plane and getting up the next day to play a ball game? I mean, why don't you do that? And then we can find out from a standpoint of staying mentally into it. These players are hot stuff taking these games off. I mean, it is ridiculous. I mean, let's face it. It is stupid. It's stupid. I mean, Denver is playing to stay out of the play-in, Danny, and they bench everybody on when they give them all a night off against the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, you must be kidding me. Yeah. That's ridiculous.
And your favorite player, Kawhi Leonard, he's
never plays.
Now he's back. Now he's back, and now they're dangerous because Kawhi is back until
he's played 31 games.
Yeah.
Jaminski, I had Jaminski in the studio for the NCAA, the great Jaminski. He played 14 years in the NBA, 12 coaches. His career high was 41 points and 22 rebounds. He did it on April 8th, 1986 against the Celtics. That was the Celtics season, 65 and 17.
Yeah.
They were 65 and 15. 2 games to go in the season, and he did that against the Celtics. Bird played 37 minutes. McHale played 34. Parrish 31. And Walt, who couldn't walk, played 23 minutes. And it's game 81, and they've already won 65 games. I mean, that's basketball. That's basketball.
That was basketball. That was. All right. Good to talk to you.
I love you, Danny. Keep it going.
Buddy.
You're the best.
Thank you, That's Christopher Mad Dog. That's Christopher Mad Dog Russo. You can see him on First Take with Stephen A. I thought that was a wonderful thing that Stephen A. did. But Stephen A. knows how to make TV. Putting Chris on there and exposing Chris to a national audience so they get to see and hear what he did for over 20 years in New York doing radio.